And you took it over, or?
Well, it's not very exciting. They during the SNL crisis, my uncle and my father kind of broke up. So one took a certain group of investors and assets, and the other. So they asked me to do a report. So I did a report on this was
Which of the two groups then?
yeah. So in the 90s, these rumors started to come out that Austria, Germany, Switzerland was no longer going to be a tax haven. So they asked me to do a study. So I looked at those countries, started to talk to some royal families, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, and then went to Cyprus and Hong Kong to find out what we could do. So and I went to Jersey, I went to Isle of Man, and another British Virgin Island and Caymans. So my father decided that Hong Kong was the best place, and my uncle decided the Cayman Islands. So they had a little bit of a split. Of course, I went with my father, closed several hundred accounts, moved it to Hong Kong, and we did really well there. Not just so much none of our investors were black money. They were just trying to reduce their tax exposure. So in fact, the contrary, most of them were big farmers, big slaughterhouses. I mean, hard working people. And so anyway, that was kind of the end of that. And then I started setting up contracts and subcontracts with Jim Von Grimmen, Peter Smart, Boston Bank, which was a bit more exciting than my father and my uncle, which were more of a mom and pop.
Well, but still, that's good. And
Yeah.
And which banks did you find in Hong Kong were most?
Yeah, I think
lucrative and-
HSBC was the best. Bank of America was taking some big positions in China Construction Bank. AIG was taking positions in AIA. So there was a lot of executive protection that I had there. Bank of China, Hong Kong, which is completely different than Bank of China, China. And Goldman Sachs, back then Goldman Sachs, I had a good relationship. Now I don't. Back then I had a really good relationship with GE Capital. I don't anymore, but one of the reasons is they saw me as a threat. I started making such good friendships at Goldman Sachs and GE Capital that people couldn't mention that anymore. So I'm very close to getting a former GE Capital executive to become the governor of the Central Bank of Thailand. I have a lot of things to ask you about that, but I think we have.
Thailand, yeah, I've spent time in Thailand.
Yeah.
On an official mission for the Asian Development Bank.
Yeah, I got to watch that video.
I was the one who basically educated the whole lot, finance ministry, and then all the people there.
Well, you weren't the only one.
Former central bank, but basically, and then I wrote a report and then went round in Thailand again. It was an official report, and they all said we're amazed. We've never seen such a report.
Right.
Nobody's putting in writing what you're saying.
Right.
And that's when they started to look into pulling out. Because my recommendation was, of course, get out of this IMA.
Right.
You know.
Okay, so I was earlier on. I was
Okay.
a little bit earlier when they we're making the decision to join the IMF or not.
Okay. And what to join the program? And what did you tell them?
Well, so
You told them not to join,
of course.
but they joined anyway.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Good.
it wasn't. I had some successful events, but
It's the central bank that was the traitor from start to finish, like in Japan. The same story. I mean, they set up the crisis. I could show this in my work from start to finish. It was all the central bank. You know, it started with the BIBF, the Bangkok International Banking Facility. They launched it in 1993. Great fanfare, and we're going to be like a offshore haven, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But it was all in order to bust the system and bust the banking system in Thailand and the economy.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
So I raised $280 million to buy the Thai Military Bank. I raised 450 to buy Siam Commercial,
Wow.
160 to buy Radhanasan, 550 to buy Bangkok Metropolitan. This was all cash in
And did
hand.
you then actually implement these
No,
purchases?
no, are you kidding? They wanted to get rid of me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. I mean, I was advising, yeah, not to sell the banks to foreigners. You know.
Well, no, but my program is very similar to yours. My program is not, I mean, some of these things that you've articulated it's beyond my imagination how you came up with this, but I think it was from heaven, to be honest with you. But the fact is that you're right, they never came in with a single penny. So they come in promising to bring in all this capital. Number one, it's all US dollar and European, we'll get into that. It's all US dollar, but they don't bring in a single penny from offshore. It just sits offshore. And we say, yeah, we're going to dedicate this line of credit to you. Don't worry. And then they went around through all these groups and they did a reverse Christie's auction. So the BOT is sitting in there and he's like, okay, this is how it's going to work. And GE Capital, Morgan Stanley, Lehman Brothers, Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs. So they all came in, and just like a reverse Christie's auction in Amsterdam, all of us people in there, we didn't know anything. We think we're bidding on a painting. It's all predestined so that this poor trust fund baby, he gets his 12 million instead of 60 million or 100 million. You know what I mean? And he pays a percentage to these Christie's auctions houses to do this for them. So that's what they did. So Merrill Lynch said, okay, we'll give you this much for the mortgage, housing mortgage. GE Capital went after the automotive. We'll give you this much for the automotive. Lehman Brothers and Merrill Lynch went after all the commercial, and pennies on the dollar, you know, as per the script. And then later, to get to the punchline, because you saw this, I won't get too long-winded. Later, all they did is set up call centers and squeeze everyone to settle. And then with that capital, it covered the pennies on the dollar. Then with that money, they paid everyone else off. So then all of the nice AAA rated pools or portfolios, they just refinanced those and reran them out without ever bringing in a single penny. Mine was cash in hand. Mine was capital. And not only that, but I was going to do what I think you and I will do together someday, is I was going to teach people how to do banking. I was going to come in and make the Thai people part of my team and show them how to do all this stuff.
Because they couldn't have known that, or, you know, they would have been disbelieving. But maybe we can do it now and demonstrate it, and then
We will do it now, for sure.
well,
Well, so
cool. That's pretty cool list, you know.
yeah, so
Siam Commercial Bank is so invested with Masons. It's amazing. I've been up on their headquarters in the towers,
yeah,
and then you look down and you see the whole arrangement down there. It's a fountain, whatever. When you're there, down there, you don't see, but from up there, it's just Masonic symbols.
yeah.
And there was
Evil
a
stuff.
senior guy standing next to me, and I looked down and I go, this was in the late 90s, maybe around that time. And I say, oh, that's a Masonic symbol. And I look at him, and he just looks at me, says nothing. You know, that's another way of confirming your stuff.
Yeah,
Because if there was nothing, they'd say, oh, why do you say that? Oh, but no.
yeah,
Nothing.
yeah.
So they know it goes on the senior level. I mean, yeah. I mean, Thailand's
Well,
an
but-
interesting case because they were never properly colonized. So it's all through networks and
Yeah.
people's networks.
Well,
Things like
so
Masonic.
now this is the exciting side of the story is in the Philippines, it was much different.
Yes.
Let me see what I have here about the Philippines.
And the money, can I ask, what sort of money did you have, or was it
Yeah,
prospective investors or?
No,
concrete?
it was concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, those figures are undersold. I had, Jim von German at Boston was gonna give me 500 million. So, just him alone. So, anyway, but what I was gonna say about the Philippines, let me see if I have it written here. This is all Thailand that I think you're gonna find fascinating.
Tales of Thailand.
Trying to find the, oh yeah, I bid on Thai Farmers Bank also.
Mhm.
So you have to keep in mind that, in 1997, I was 24 years old. So
Oh, really? Well,
it was, it was Jim von
are
German.
you younger than me?
Huh?
Are you younger than me?
Well, no, okay, not 24. I was,
97. I was 30.
no, you're right. I was 30. Anyway, let's
We
just say
same
this.
year. Are we same year?
Yeah, we're the same year. I'm
Good year.
68.
Okay.
You're 67.
Yeah,
Okay,
but January, so.
I'm November.
Okay, so we're quite close. 2
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
Within 2 months.
2 months and we were in the same areas. Which is just shocking to me. Anyway, so it wasn't me seeing all this and coming up with it. I was just a trusted hand that did well over here in Europe with some accounts. And so so to explain what I would like to do with you, and what we were doing is, of course, we were going to securitize these banks. And I'm not sure how you feel about securitization. Most of your public things are,
Yeah, I don't talk much about it. I think it's great. And then,
Okay.
you've talked a little bit about it, and maybe we'll have to talk a bit more on
Yeah.
some of the details, but I think it's a great idea because
okay,
basically, all this Basel and then capital adequacy stuff,
right,
I mean, basically it's nonsense, but you have to go through the procedures, the banks have to do it. So securitization is a good way of, boosting your balance sheet, give the bureaucrats, the regulators what they want,
right.
but we can get on with real banking.
Okay, so you have to do that.
Yeah,
Because I get, your public persona is, I'm not sure that you,
No. I am an authorized person,
Yeah.
approved person by the British FCA.
okay,
I've had a fund management license in Liechtenstein.
okay.
You can renew that at any time.
So what I mean is, you have to play ball with those big
And
players.
the regulators,
You have
that's yeah, of course, you have.
Well, not
to.
just the regulators, but the big banks that control the
Okay,
regulators.
well, yeah.
You have,
Yeah, that's
okay, so this is our discussion. In my humble opinion, you have to let a little bit fall off the table.
Hmm.
That's what stopped me in Thailand. The head of Morgan Stanley, I forget his name, Greenstein. The head of Morgan Stanley, the chairman, he took me aside and he says, Roger, this is all brilliant stuff, but this isn't the plan. And I was too young to understand what he was saying. He was saying, this is your only warning that you're gonna get. Stop. This is the plan.
Or, yeah, give him something. Make
Or-
a deal.
That's what I
I mean,
think.
that's where Trump is good. He would say, okay, let's make a deal. He loves to make deals.
Yeah, because he's a New Yorker. He grew up in I don't think you and I ever grew up in the snake pit like he did. I spent a little bit of time in New York, about 2 years total. So I know that's a snake pit. I mean, and for him to be successful, that was beyond comprehension. But if you think of the unions, the mafia, and the government, all three of those groups attacking you while you're trying to build a building, which is already on tight margin, and all these other people have to eat. It's, of course, the reputation of some contractors getting squeezed. Yeah, it's true, but they were all under so much pressure. So anyway, one of my discussions, I think, and this is why I wanted to meet you face to face before we meet with Malik at Standard and Charter, is he has such a network that if we put together a couple deals and he and his bank decide to just buy, 20, 30, 40, 50 million of that security, we're done. That's all of our funding for our bank, and then maybe, and probably for a fair fee, sell off the other, 20, 30, 40, but whatever the project is, sell off the rest of the security. So that's where part of my funding was in this acquisition is, look at Roger, you understand these securities really, really well. If you can go into Thailand and repackage these and get a credit enhancement so that it's tier 2 capital for us, yeah, we'll buy everything you produce. So anyway, so that's a little bit what I want to start to talk to you about, is basically like it's like a leverage buyout. You know, you go in, you look at all these banks, which they're all a diamond in the rough. They don't have.
Exactly. So, yeah, and so I think this is why, it's good to work together, because I had not so far made that part of the business plan, but by adding that, which is gonna, be more profitable, we're gonna be, successful faster, we can grow faster. So, what's not to like?
Yeah. And there's, I was just with this, I've got some calls that might come in. I just have to keep an eye on it. So I was with this group in Spain. I forget let me see if I can find their name. I sent it to you once. In fact, if I just search my talk with you, I can find it fast. Renta4, Banco de Iversiana Renta4. So anyway, let me just get their website up so you have a visual. So this is them. They have 700 employees. They have 57 branches, and they're not doing well. Their margins are extremely tight. They're basically fluctuating between on their 11 billion in assets, they're fluctuating between 0.5 and 1% margin. Now, I don't know where they're burning capital. I don't know if the 700 employees are burning capital. I don't know if there's a
Seems a lot of branches, but only 700 staff, right? So
Yeah.
you've got about 12 people per branch.
right, and some of them quite small. Spain is moving a little bit faster
And
than
that is
some.
in Spain.
Yeah.
In Spain.
Yeah, all the major cities in Spain.
But Spain is good location.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the Spanish,
Spain is big, so for that perspective, it's good to have these branches, because geographically. And are they scattered across Spain or in a
all
particular
over.
area?
I mean, mostly the big cities, but all over. I met with them Christmas Day. I was shocked that they took the meeting. I met with them Christmas Day, just north of Madrid, in this beautiful little town. Anyway.
But what's the story? I mean, who owns them?
Well, so what they invited me to talk about is the margins are so tight, so they want to get into project financing.
Yeah. Well, anything to
Yes,
help.
yes. So I said, sure, I'll take a look at it. And halfway through the project, I'm like, this is okay. It's very infantile, it's very tough, and you're mixing it with a brand new technology. There's a lot of difficult things here. And then my introduction, his name is Ernesto. Ernesto said, well, Roger, why don't you talk to him about some of the things you have in the pipeline? And they said, what, you do this too? And I said, well, I have some deals. I said, let's hold off on that. Let's keep going through your deal. But anyway, so, and they might be reachable today also. But so anyway, they have this, they have good assets, not performing. They want to produce hydro, some new variant of hydrogen. I think probably for hydrogen vehicles, but something slightly new.
So they're lending to a company, or they have a stake in it?
Well, I think it's just a stake. I don't think that they don't use their commercial lending licensed very often. Normally, they just are acting as an investment bank.
Okay.
So they have the commercial lending license. They told me that they would be interested in start using it. But anyway, the reason I mentioned
But they're
that,
taking deposits, I think.
yeah,
I mean, they're, as their main funding source.
well, yeah,
Not.
yeah, I don't know if we can classify it as a deposit. Definitely, it's an obligation. I think it's that they just take in investment and it essentially, but there's.
Okay, well, that's the main reason why their margins are so low.
Yeah.
We could turn around this bank. It's such a short time.
Right, well, so they're just an example. So what happened to me in Thailand and the Philippines at a very young age, I told you in the video, I couldn't get out of the room. Before I could leave, the owner would say, hey, we need to talk in private. And he would take me aside and he would say, Roger, I don't need 500 million from my bank. Why don't we just work out a stock swap? Okay. So I call up Jim and I go, oh my gosh, I've got something so exciting. Blah, blah, blah. He goes, okay, what do you want to do? I said, well, can you bring me to a board meeting? Can I bring this before the board in Manhattan? And he goes, sure. Is that really what you want to do? I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, it's your bank. It's not theirs. What do you do? I go, what do you mean? He goes, they offered you the bank, right? I said, yeah. He goes, why don't you meet with me first? And we try to do a board meeting. Sorry, we no longer need the money. And you buy the bank. You know what I mean? So I think once you and I get on the same page and we decide how to split the world, blah, 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 I think the energy that's going to happen is bank owners are going to take us aside and say, look, my kids don't want the bank. This is already happening to me now. I don't have a legacy program. Why don't you guys call me anymore? I feel like the ugly redheaded stepchild. Well, to be honest with you, we have this, and this offer. We didn't really want to pose that to you or propose it, but if you're interested, we can basically, Richard and I are in no desperate need for money. We will withhold our executive bonuses and salary, blah, 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 and we'll put that in the bank, but as a reserve, and that's your safety net, and we'll just pay off the bank in the next 3 years, every quarterly. You know what I mean? And I have a spreadsheet describing exactly how this works. So I showed you this once before.
Have you
And
done that before?
yeah,
With the bank?
yep,
Where?
Philippines. Very, very small bank, 9-branch bank. But then the problem is, which is the catch two that I have to talk to you about, which you don't yet mention, but that's neither here nor there. I think you'll start to mention it, is I really think we have to have the central bank and regulators involved before we go in. Otherwise,